Alright, so we're going to start on this design here. Now I've already base coated my surface white. So how I did that was I took my multi-purpose sealer with a damp artist sponge, not real wet, just damp. Applied a coat of the multi-purpose sealer on there. This is important because it not only seals the wood to keep the paint from soaking in, but it helps the paint adhere. So when you don't use this, you have to use more layers of paint to get it to stick to the wood. Plus, if you decide to tape a banding or something off later, it's going to lift the paint. So this is an important step. Multi-purpose sealer, dampen artist sponge, let that dry. And then we will apply 2 coats of Snow White with the same dampened artist sponge. Sometimes it takes 3 to get your white as opaque as you would like. And you're going to lightly sand after you get your final coat on. You can sand after the multi-purpose sealer dries as well, and that will help the paint go on a little bit smoother. So I've got that done. Now that I have it done and my part of my line drawing on here, I've decided that I don't want the whole thing white. So easy fix. I know I'm going to put a peppermint banding around the outside border, so I was testing here to see how wide I would want it. So I'm going to go about 3/8 of an inch here. So each one of these lines on here, each one of these tiny little lines is 1/8 of an inch. So there's the first 1/8, the second 3/8, then you go to half, okay, all the way over to 1 inch. So I'm going to go into the line that's in between 1/4 and 1/2. And I'm going to lay a piece of paper underneath, and my pencil is not out as far as this is. As you can see, it's back a little ways because I want this to run along the outside edge and to be kind of flat on the surface so my pencil isn't tilted one way or the other. So I'm going to put this part flat against the edge. Okay, so I've got it flat. It should be even with the bottom of the surface, and we're just going to run our pencil around. Go to there because we can't go any further. Come over here. I'm holding my pencil and turning my surface, but you can certainly do it the other way. So I've got it to there. So now I'm just going to take my pencil and connect where these meet. Give myself a little guideline there. So I've got my kind of guideline here for my peppermint where it's going to be going. Just erase some of these lines. I kind of got this going up a little bit over his hat, so I'm going to see if I can't smooth that out a little bit. It's going to come really close to his hat. Just erase any lines that we don't need. That still almost looks like it's curved up. And I can shorten his hat a little bit if I need to. This might be just a little bit too wide here, so we'll adjust this. Get that a little bit closer to the same size down here. Of course, I'm drawing this for you. Your pattern will have all of the lines already ready for this particular surface. Which the surface and the sponge are on my website, as well as my favorite little eraser. Erases all your little boo-boos. Okay, so now that I have that line on there, I want to paint the inside of this circle a blue color. So we're going to paint it winter blue, I think is the color I've chosen. And I'm just going to paint right over my lines that I put on there. They'll still show up, and if they don't, I can put them back on. Not a big deal. So this is winter blue. I'm going to get me a a brush. Any brush will do to base coat in. I just grabbed an angle brush here. I'm going to go ahead and spritz my palette here just in case I need it. This paint seems a little thick in this bottle, so in case I need a little bit of water, I can just go right over there and grab some and thin this paint down. We don't want to use straight paint when we're base coating because it's just too thick. And I might add a little bit of white in here. That is going to be a little bit darker than what I want. A little bit of white out. And I'm just going to mix those and create a soft blue for the background. We still want to be able to see the snow when we put it on later. So I'm just going to paint this whole thing in. Grab some white, grab some blue, mix them together. Make a really light blue color. And I'll probably do a couple of coats, which may end up covering up my lines. But that's okay. I can just transfer them right back on there. So I'm just using an angle brush here so that I can get close to that line that I drew. And I'll let this dry and see if I want to apply a second coat on here or not. I might just want a messy one coat, who knows? Just a quick little painting in. Smooth it out a little bit. Okay, so that's got our center painted in. I'm going to let it dry, and then I'll come back and probably put a second coat on. Maybe not on him, but I will put a second coat maybe everywhere else to just kind of smooth that out a little bit. Probably add a little bit more white to it. I want it to be a little bit lighter than that. But the winter blue was the shade of color of blue that I really wanted for the background. So. Alright, I'm going to get this dry. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm starting my second coat on here. I'm just going to go over everything again. Now, the one thing you need to know about these paints is they will dry a little bit darker. So, if you want it lighter, once it dries, if you feel like it's too dark on your second coat, just add a little bit more white in there. If you like the way it is, then great. So I'm just going to go over the whole thing again, and I'll just put my pattern lines back on. It was just a few lines, so it's not a huge deal for me. It's much easier to just put them back on than to try and go around. Okay, so that's got our second coat on there. We'll let that dry, and then I'm going to come in and erase my pencil lines. As long as I didn't put paint over them, I can erase them very easily. I'm going to go ahead and draw my line down here because I'm going to make this a little jingle bell. So we're going to have a little part here, and then our bell. I'm going to just give it a little bit of roundness here, and we're going to make that a little jingle bell. And so I'm going to paint that in, and I originally was going to paint it a silver bell, which I really like, but I think I'm going to change it up a little bit, and we'll put some gold in here. We'll make it a gold bell. So I'm going to base coat it in with Moon Yellow. Try and stay off of my pencil lines as best I can so I can erase them. And you can paint your edges the same color as well. I'm just going to leave my edges white. I'm going to paint the topper up here gold too. So we'll paint it with our moon yellow. And it will take 2 coats of this. And I'm just using a 6 filbert, but you know, you can use whatever brush you grab. We're just doing some base coating stuff right now. And we'll let that dry and apply a second coat. So I will get it dry, get the second coat on off camera, and then I'm going to go ahead and put my lines back on with using my graphite paper. So you'll lay your what I do is I lay my pattern on here, and then I put my graphite paper underneath it and trace my lines. That way I know my pattern is set exactly where I want it to be. So let's get this dry and our pattern lines on. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm getting ready to put my lines on here. As you can see in my original pencil drawing, I made my peppermint banding around the outside thinner, so you can make yours thinner. So I've got it on here where I want it to be. I'm going to hold it down and slide my graphite underneath it because I don't really need to transfer all the detail of the tree, just where the trunk is. And I tried to get it about in the same spot that I had it last time. Move his nose over because I don't like where I have it right there. And you can make his shoes or not make his shoes. His shoes could be hidden or they could be seen. Completely up to you. I can already see right here my boxes are not drawn in very straight, so I'm going to attempt to make some straighter lines as I transfer on here. And as I paint them in, if they're not straight, I can always straighten them up. Now I did notice on my bell down here I have it turned up this way, so I might just do that. And I also have this topper coming all the way down here so that I won't be painting in that part of the peppermint. So let me grab my eraser. I'm going to erase this line here because I like the way I drew it on my original piece, and erase this one here, and I'll fill in with some of that yellow. And it'll take me a couple of coats to cover up that pencil line now. Because I really like the way that I had the top and the bottom drawn on here. So we're going to do it that way. Go ahead and erase this. Anything I haven't put pencil on, or paint on, should come off fairly easy. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this line out here because we can definitely see where we need to go. I'm not going to erase that bottom line, although I might move it up just a little bit. Brush the eraser shavings in a trash can away from your paint. Don't let them get in your paint, because then it will cause issues later when you're painting and you pick up some paint and you got this big old clump in there. Okay, I need to adjust this a little bit. trace it back. And now you're seeing my design process all as it is. And fill that in. Another coat on down here. And then I'll go ahead and get a second coat on up here. Okay, I think we're good here. Let's see if I can't get this line covered up just a little bit more. I probably will have to come back with another little bit of paint there. Alright, let me get my paints gathered up and we'll get started. Okay, let's start getting some base coats on this guy. We're going to paint in his hat with some white because we're going to also make his hat kind of a peppermint stripe hat. So we'll paint it in with white. Make sure you give it a little kind of point at the top. I'm just using a round brush here. You can use a filbert or a flat, whatever brush works for you. I think we'll paint his shoes in white as well. We're going to make his shoes peppermint. We're going to make his shoes match his hat. Okay, his little nose we're going to paint in this warm beige color. I'll probably add some white to it, but you can take the red and add a little bit of white, maybe a little bit of gold to it, or some brown and tone it down. So I'm going to use this color. I'm going to lighten it with a little bit of white because I actually want to use that color to try and darken it a little bit later. So we're just going to make a light skin color here, which we'll have to go over probably 3 times at least to cover this dark blue. Okay, and I know that his beard is kind of a bluish gray, but I want it to be gray. So we'll use some gray sky and put in his beard. So you can kind of see the difference there. And I'm just filling it in for right now. We'll add more detail when we come back and put some other colors on top. So right now we're just laying in some foundation base colors. Okay, now I want the fur on his hat band and his dress or whatever it is he's wearing to also be undercoated with gray. Let's use some sable brown on our tree trunk. I'm not really sure what color I want to paint his. Shake that up a little bit more. What color I want his dress thing to be. If I want to leave it that blue, I might just leave it that winter blue color right there. So this is for our tree trunk. So I'm going to use my smaller round here. This is a 1 round. going to start down here at the bottom. Might add a little bit of white to that, or a little bit of this flesh tone to it. This will give it a little bit more of a lighter brown color. I'm going to let it get thin as it comes up here. Then I'm going to add a little bit of water to this. Now you can go to a detail liner to do this part. We're going to make some branches here. And you can make your branches however you want, or you can follow the pattern. We're going to be putting peppermints growing on this tree, so you want some to be a little bit fatter and some to be a little bit thinner. Just be a little creative with your tree. You're making either the letter V or the letter Y to create your branches. I want this tree to reach way over here. Okay, that ought to be pretty good for some peppermints on there. Now I'm not sure what color I want the presents to be yet, so we'll definitely be making one of them a yellow color and one of them white. I think this one here I'm going to make white. Hopefully I'm making a straight line there. I'm not going to worry too much about the bottom down here because we're going to have snow coming around the presents. But you still want it to be kind of a cube shape. I've got something in my paint there in my surface. It's already dried in there. I couldn't get it out. Okay. I think the big one will make yellow, but I think I'm going to lighten up my yellow. This is that moon yellow that we painted the topper and the bell in, but I'm going to add some white here and make a lighter yellow. And we'll be putting 2 coats on here, so I'm just going to show you the first coat. I'll go off camera and apply the second coat the exact same way. Now I am just brush mixing my paint here for this present, so if you feel like you need to just go ahead and mix a whole bunch of paint up for both coats. Well, you won't need a whole bunch because it's not a big present, but you can certainly do that. Okay. And I think that one I'm going to leave blue. So I'm going to get my second coats on, and then all of the graphite lines that I can erase, I'm going to go ahead and erase off of here. And I'll be right back. Okay, got all my second coats on here. Now I want to put some lines on here. You can take your pattern and lay it on here and transfer some lines, but I'm going to do it very quickly by using my Lonna's favorite chalk pencil. I have green lead in this one, and I'm going to take it out. It comes with pink, green, and white lead, and I want to put some pink lead in this. And then I'm going to draw in my lines for my peppermint stripes. So I'm going to start and go around my outer edge here and just draw them to where they look like they're a good distance apart. I don't generally worry too much about perfection when I'm painting. So if you are someone who needs to have it exactly the right distance apart, which that one right there is just a tad too close, so I'll just erase that. And I'm just kind of guessing about the width here. When I go to paint them in, they'll all be the same color or the same width. So I'm drawing them on the outside edge here, and then I'm going to put some lines on the hat. I might have to throw an extra one up in there. So let me wide angle you out a little bit. I probably got you completely off camera for that. And then I want some stripes on his hat, so I'm going to actually with these I'm not going to worry about making them so much wide as just put some lines on here that I can follow with my brush. And I want his shoes to be striped as well, and I think we'll just have these come straight off the front. And then my present will get some stripes, and I think I'm going to take them opposite of what I did on his hat. I originally was going to have them go the same way, but I think this way I'll have them go opposite. Okay, so now we're going to paint in our stripes, and we're going to use Country Red, and I'm going to use my small round brush that I have here. It's a number 2 round. Got some water sprayed on my palette here. It's all dried up. And my 2 round brush. Load it with some Country Red. I'm going to get just a little bit of water. I don't ever like to use paint straight from the bottle unless it's an extremely thin paint. I need to have a little bit of water in it so it flows nicely. Okay, so we'll paint all of our stripes in. And I might move these just a tad bit closer. So I'm not going, right now I'm not going on where I put my lines, but I think as I go on around they get closer together. These weren't quite close enough for me. Some water. It's not wanting to flow off of my brush nicely, so that generally means you need a little bit of water in there. Okay, we'll just go all the way around. Now if you want nice wide stripes on yours, perfectly fine. It's your piece. You can be the judge. Taking a damp brush and removing where I got it in the blue area. And then continue on around. And we'll probably need 2 coats here. So I'll just paint in 1 coat, and then I'll go off camera and paint in the 2nd coat. in my paint. Some of my stripes might be wider than others. Again, I am not worried about that. When it's all done, it will all come together nicely. It's gonna be super cute. My little peppermint gnome. Now the good thing about using this pencil that I used is that when I'm done here, I can remove the lines that I didn't use with some water, or just erase them away. More paint here. Okay, so there's all of our stripes there. And I think, well, I'm going to go ahead and use this brush. This is a pretty small round brush, but if you feel like you need to get a smaller brush, then you can go to a detail liner. I don't want my lines to be quite that thin with a detail liner on here. So I'm going to stay up on the tip of the brush a little bit more and create some stripes on the hat. This is where I will be a little bit more careful. Some on the shoes. A little bit more water in my brush, and then we'll do the ones on the package here. I'll make these a little bit fatter. I'm going to come in with a skinny line in between. Okay, I think on his hat, a couple of these I might make just a tad bit fatter. Okay, so now I'm going to get my detail liner out, which I use a 10-0 liner. I kind of like a little bit longer bristles, but you use whatever detail liner that you like. So I'm going to load it up with some water and take the water to my paint and thin it down nice and thin. Okay, then I'm going to go to my paper towel and I'm going to roll the ferrule so that any moisture that is on my ferrule will not run down and create an ugly mess. So let's see. I think I will do 2 thin lines, or try to do 2 thin lines. Some of mine got a little bit closer than what I kind of wanted, but I think all be just fine in the end. Two thin lines. Oop, focus there. There we go. Again, when you're using a detail liner, this is a brush you want to stay up on the tip. You must have your paint inky consistency in order for it to flow nicely off the tip of your brush. Oh, it's looking like peppermints now. This is going to be so cute. Whoops, about to drop my brush. Alright, just a few more. Okay, so that is the outside edge. Now let's do the narrower lines on our hat, and this one we're just going to do a single one. I'm making a big mess here. I'm doing it right next to that fatter stripe. Stay up on the tip of the brush so you get those nice thin lines. And we'll put some thinner lines on the shoes. Okay, and I'm going to go off camera and get a second coat on my outside border because I want that red to be a nice dark red like it is on the hat, because I had to go over that a couple times. And I'll put a second coat of red here on my present as well. And then we'll come back and add some more detail in here. Okay, all my stripes are done on here for now. I want to move over to the tree and add some detail to our tree here. I'm going to put out some burnt umber and some more of that warm beige. And I've got some white over here. I want to add some streaking in the trunk of the tree. I'm going to add some with some burnt umber. You could do this with a detail liner to get much thinner lines than what I'm getting here. Okay, I'm just going to wipe my brush off and grab some of that warm beige and add a few little highlights in here. I'll keep these a little bit more on the right side. If yours aren't showing up, then add a little tiny bit of white into them. I've got a couple of places that the paint must be pretty close to the color we based the tree in with, so we want to get just a few little streaks of highlight in here. Just a little bit of detail. Don't worry about getting tons of detail here. Okay, now I want to float down the left side of my tree with just burnt umber. So I've grabbed a chisel brush. This is a 6. It's very short bristles. And I like these for floating smaller areas because they hold a little bit more water than a angle brush, but if you like to use an angle brush, then you just go right for that. So I'm just going to go along this edge. I've got the brush tilted up a little bit so that I can, you know, not laying it flat. I don't want the float to get wide. I just want it to stay on that edge. So now I've got the brush turned pretty much straight up and down. Okay, so normally when we float like this, but I'm doing it like this. And you can float like that if you've got water in your brush. If you don't have water in your brush, you're not going to be able to do it because that water is going to help soften things. And I definitely want to make sure that I put wherever a branch connects to another branch, I definitely want to make sure that I put some paint in those places. So like right here, this one connects. A little bit more paint. I think I had more paint than or water than I had paint that time. We're going to come down this edge. Right here where this one connects, we're going to put some right there. I'm still up on that little tippy toe of this brush. This really helps, even though this is such a tiny tree, wrong side of the brush, this is going to help it just have more detail. I'm just getting a small amount of paint, and especially when I'm going to these really tight areas here, I will touch my brush, the tip of it, to my paper towel so I'm not pulling a lot of paint over here where I don't want it. And I'm just going to scooch a little bit onto some of these branches. Again, by being just up on the very tip. I need some water because the paint did not want to move off of the brush for me. So that means I need a little bit of water. And this is very delicate work, so if you feel like you can't quite do that yet with your brush, you don't feel skilled enough, it really just takes practice. So you can use a round brush to get in there and do that if you want to. I'm going to put a little bit of darker stuff down here. I'm going to grab a little bit of our base color and mix it in. I want my tree trunk to kind of look like it's in the ground somewhere. Okay, just give it a little foot. And we'll add some snow on there later and a little bit more highlights. But the reason I wanted to get my tree done is because I want to come in here now and I'm going to take my white pencil. And I want to draw some circles on here for some peppermints. Now again, you can grab your line drawing and transfer them on here. I'm just going to put some circles where I think some peppermints might be growing on this tree, because this is a peppermint tree. And not every branch has to have a peppermint. It's your tree. You can be the judge of where your peppermints go. So let's see if you can kind of see I've drawn There we go. Now you can see I've drawn quite a few on there. So I'm going to paint them in with white and see if I want to add any more in there. These are going to be pretty small little peppermints. It's going to take a couple of coats of white paint on here. And you can make your peppermints as little or as big as you want. My gnome is as big as my tree, so maybe my tree is a little peppermint tree. It just looks big, or you know, the gnome looks ginormous next to this tree, but gnomes aren't usually great big. This is just a fun little whimsical design for Christmas, and gnomes are so big this year. And I definitely wanted to paint something with peppermint on it. When you see me touch my finger to my piece, it's because maybe I have a little bit of built up paint and I don't want that buildup of paint on there. Maybe it was a little bit too thick on my paintbrush, and when I laid it down it left too thick of a amount of paint, kind of like that one right there. So I'm just touching it with my finger and removing some of that paint, softening it back in there, making a nice smooth. That one I got carried away. Just creating a nice little smooth coat on here. I'm still staying up on the tip of the brush mostly, giving it just a slight amount of pressure as I fill in the inside of the circle. Now these peppermints are going to be, you know, a little bit more on the smaller detail things, so if you don't like a lot of detail, you can just leave your peppermints off and just make you a nice little winter tree. Put some snow on it. I am, after I get my snow in, I'm going to add a peppermint down here laying in the snow as well. So I need to get those dry before I apply a second coat. Just want to erase these lines down here. Alright, I'm going to go get my second coat on these guys. Okay, I kind of tested out how I wanted my peppermints to look here, so I'm going to zoom you in because this is some tiny little work here. So I'm taking my one round brush, just dipping the tip of it into some paint. I don't have very much paint on my brush. I'm going to touch my paper towel because I still don't want a lot. I'm going to put a dot in the center and then just pull a swoopy line out. We want 5 of them, and that's going to make our little peppermints. So we'll do them all this way. I tried a different way on this one and I didn't like it, so we got 5 little lines on our peppermints here. Well, that's a fat little line. And if you don't like doing this detail work with a small brush, then you can grab some paint, acrylic paint markers, and make those. You can buy those off of Amazon, but I really encourage you to try and do this finer detail work because it's going to help your brush control. If you're someone who struggles with brush control, it's really going to help. So we're kind of just making a little pinwheel on here. I'll do a couple of more and then I will go off camera and finish them since I drew in quite a few. You probably don't need to sit and watch me do all of them. brush here. Dot in the center. Swoop, almost like you're going to make the letter C. And there you go. Little peppermints. Aren't they cute? Okay, I'm going to finish out all my other circles here. Okay. I think I'm going to change the color of his clothing to just a slightly darker blue. This is Salem blue, because I don't want him to start blending in with the background. Now you can make his beard cover up all of his shirt thing if you want. And just have the little fur parts. Yeah, I might change the color of the fur because I need to bring some of that brown over into this piece, so I might give his hat brown fur. So this is my designing process that you're seeing here. I get to go and it's like, okay, I need to bring some of that color over, or I'm not quite happy with that color. And I design right on camera so you get to see it and experience it all. Straighten this edge up here. And remove some of this on the bottom. Just using a damp brush. I want it to come down a little bit, and just not quite as far as I had it there. Okay, I'll let that dry and then I'll put another coat on there. So for his fur, I'm going to go ahead and change it to a brown color. And I'm going to go with burnt umber. I'm going to put the darker color on there first. I'm just going to use a small, let's see what size I have here, 3 round. And make the fur dark. You can leave it the gray and then do light colors on top of it if you would like. That was pretty wide down there on the bottom, so about covered all of his shoes up. Take some of that off. Again, just with a damp brush. If you need to, you can grab your eraser and erase away. The shoes are probably pretty close to cured because I left this project for a couple of hours. Got my grandkids here. So, alright, a second coat of blue on his shirt or whatever it is that he's wearing. Okay, we're going to let that dry. We're going to start adding some details onto our presents now. We're going to start with our yellow one. This one already has its details on it, so it just needs some shading and highlighting and a bow added to it. And we're going to add some fun little details on our yellow one next. So let's start with some antique gold out here. Shake it up really good. antique gold. And I'm just going to take the end of my brush and dip it into this gold and get a little bit on the end. And we're going to put some dots around this here. And it will take these dots a little bit to dry when you do it this way. You could take the end of your brush and dot some on. I like all different sizes on here. Apparently I didn't get any paint that time. That's a lot of dots, but I think it's going to be great. Going to be great. Okay, so while we have our gold, I'm going to take a little bit of that burnt umber and a bit of gold, and we're going to paint in our little things down here in our bell. So we've got like an oval shape, and then we pull it down. And they actually should be crisscrossing here, or close to crisscrossing. So I'm going to move their little tails, and we'll make those tails go a different direction. Maybe just a little bit more here. Okay, and the blue one I'm just going to leave, right now I'm just going to leave it blue. So I want to work on his nose and his hands, and I think I might need to touch up his nose right there. That's a lot of paint. Didn't need near that much paint because this is not a very big design, so that's enough paint to do probably 15. Alright. So, on his nose and his hands, I'm going to take that little chisel brush that I had, and we're going to float. I know, we're going to float with this little bitty brush. I'm going to put some red out because we'll need some red here in just a minute, but for right now I'm just going to use this flesh color we put out, which is warm beige. And I'm going to put this color right next to his hat band and right next to his sleeves. Okay. And then we'll take a little bit of red and we'll work it into my brush just a little bit. You can see I've just got a small amount of paint. This is a very small area. Touch my paper towel to get any excess paint off the end of it. And we're just going to paint some red on the end of his nose. I made his nose pretty red. We don't want red on the hands, but we will put some more of this color right next to the shirt. And I'm going to dry that real quick. That's just a heat gun. I hope that wasn't too loud. This is the first time I've actually used it on camera. A little bit of white. Put a little white highlight on his nose. And some white on the hands. I might have to add just a little bit of pink to the hands so that the a little bit of that red, so that they don't look so drastically different from the nose. And then I'll go in and erase those graphite lines that I have there. Okay, so my instructions will be saying like, do all the peppermints this way, and you know, do the yellow present this way and stuff like that. As I'm videotaping, I'm moving all around, giving things a chance to dry as I work other areas. So I'm going to shade on his shirt first, and I think I want to take some I think I'll take my Salem blue and my burnt umber. I'm going to see if that will darken up that blue enough. I really don't want to have to get black out unless I have to. If I can just darken this blue a little bit without making it look brown. And that's too gray, so that's not going to work. So I am going to get a different color of blue here. Okay, I think I'm going to try the color Royal Navy. It is a pretty new color from DecoArt. They used to have a color called Navy, and they discontinued that one a couple of years ago. And I think this one takes its place very nicely. So I'm going to stay with this 6 chisel blender. This is pretty bright. I think I'm going to take some of that base color, which was the Salem blue, and mix the two together. Let's do an equal mix, and if it's still too dark, add a little bit more of the Salem blue in there. So we want to go around his beard. Since we're here, we'll go ahead and do the present with this color. So I'm going to shade the left sides and along the bottom. And the bottom doesn't matter as much as the sides do, because we'll be having some snow on there. Alright, on the top of his sleeves, where the beard kind of lays over the sleeves. And then we'll do a really thin little float here. So that means when I do a thin float, I've got a little bit of water in my brush. It's blended with the paint. I'm going to flip my brush up and just kind of take it along that edge next to the fur. Okay, I'll definitely need to darken that in this. I want to walk out a little bit farther. I don't want it to be quite so tight on that edge. There we go. I think I'll go ahead while I have this, add a little tiny touch more of that blue in there, that Royal Navy, and we'll go one more time underneath here. Make sure you're dry before you do this, or you'll just lift your paint. And try not to fill in the whole shirt thing. We do want to put a little bit of a highlight in here. Okay, let's add a little bit of a highlight with some white. So we're going to put it on the sleeves, on the part next to the hand. Might come up the outer edge of the sleeve just a little bit, and then we want to highlight on here. So I'm going to start right here and just make a line down there, and then I'm just going to pull that line. I'm going to go to each corner and pull that out and soften it out with the water edge of my brush, kind of keeping it soft. We don't want any hardness in there. No hard lines. And I got out a line with my blue there. I'll have to clean that up. Get a little bit of water. I'm not sure which blue that is. It must be the base color blue that we used. Okay, and as you can see, that white's not showing up very much. So, just give it a little bit more. And then I'll do the present. Up this side, across the top. Blend it out just a little bit. Make a nice little highlight on there. Okay, we're going to leave his shirt there for now until we get the beard in, see if there's anything else we want to add to that. So I'm going to jump over here to the yellow present, and I want to start shading on it, and I'm going to shade with some antique gold. So I'm going to grab me a bigger flat brush here. That might be too big. So let's go with a 10 flat brush. But you can use, you know, if you have a particular brush that you like to float with, go right ahead. So I've woke my brush up with some water. So now I'm loading it. I have water and paint in my brush. I'm blending them so that they create a nice, nice soft float here on my palette. If you feel like you've got a lot, you can touch it to your paper towel. I normally do. This time I did not. And we're going to go around all these presents. This antique gold. Okay, that's on the left side and the bottom. So the bottom for this one would be around those presents. Okay, so while I have this color, I'm also going to work on my topper. Okay, so I've drawn two little lines here. Okay, I want to shade on each one of those lines and create like some deep areas in this topper. I have to zoom you out here. I probably had you completely off of camera for that. Okay, we'll go down here to the bell. And I'm going to shade right next to it on the top up here of the bell. We're actually going to go around the whole thing, but we have to get one side done first. And I'm not getting enough moisture here. I'm not sure what color I'm going to paint this part in yet. might just paint part of it black. I might come in here and make this bell like the ringer. So it would be connected here. We could make it the ringer and paint this like a negative space. I haven't decided yet, you know. Lots of decisions to make here. Okay, so then I want to highlight. I've still got to do some outside edges on this and stuff, but I'm going to go ahead and do the present here with some white. So I'm going to kind of chisel edge up that side and bring it across the top. We still have to add our bows and stuff on here. So right now we're just getting the presents ready for their decoration. Let me go back to that antique gold. And I want to do the outside edges and walk it in a little bit. I'll do this outside edge and walk it in a little bit. Circle, and I'm just going to go, I'm not going to go all the way up to the top there. I want to keep the top where I can put a highlight. Okay, so that's got some shading on the top. Let's go back down here. Our first shading anyway, so we may darken this here in a little bit. I want to put some of this on the sides, make this look more rounded. Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and go along the bottom, just barely along the bottom, just slightly darken that bottom. We're going to put our bright highlight right there. It's looking pretty good. Okay, let's shade or highlight. Let's highlight with some white here on our topper piece. So I just got some white here. I want to do along the very top of it. Now this is going to fade in there. We're going to do along this center piece. I'm just going to kind of brush some in there, not really float it in there. And I'm going to shade those outer edges here in a second because I do need that edge shaded. And then we'll put some in the center down here. I'm going to bring it up on it a little bit to create a little highlight glow here. And then down here on the bell, I'm going to create a highlight right here just by tapping some that was left on the corner of my brush right there, and then I'm going to take the opposite side, the water edge, and just gently kind of smooth that out on the outer edges so the paint stays there and we're just softening the outer edges of it. I also want to take my detail liner with some clean water and some white go around these. This will kind of, you know, make that look a little deeper down in there. And we're going to come back and darken these here in a second. That's going to just give it a little bit of a raised look. Or like that. That's kind of pushed down in there just a little bit. And let me go on the outer edges of this and shade some gold. So we can kind of bring all that together. And I think we're going to leave that there for right now till we get everything else done, and we may come back and do some brighter. I know I'm going to want to do a brighter highlight down here, but I want to get everything else done. I'm going to add a little bit brighter highlight on here though. Okay, let's move on to let's do the peppermint on the hat and the shoes so we can do the fur, because we'll need to do the beard last. So for the peppermint, I'm going to go back to this little 6 chisel brush here. Okay, and we're going to get out some deep burgundy. Now when you use a small brush for floating, you've got to make sure that you keep the paint tight on the one edge of the brush that you're going to be putting paint. Okay, so I'm going to be putting paint just on the very tippy corner of this brush, and then using a little bit of water to work it into the brush a little bit and soften it out. So I'm going to dip in there and grab some paint. Get a little drop of water so I can blend the two together. And with a smaller brush, you are going to have to go and reload frequently. That's just the nature of the brush. It's not one that holds a lot of paint. So we want to go along next to the fur. And I want that even a little bit narrower float, so I'm going to push into that paint so that it stays more on that very edge there. We're going to do the shoes. We'll go ahead and do our present, left, and bottom. The bottom will probably end up being covered up with snow, but I want to do the left sides of the shoes. We're almost filling those shoes in, so we have to be very careful not to do that. Add more water to your brush if you need it. Go over there and grab a little dot of water. I'm going to push against that paint because I want to keep it tight on the toe of that brush. Touch my paper towel, and I'm going to do the left side of his hat. Okay. Now we want to do, since we're doing this color, we need to go out and do our peppermint. Okay, so we're going to do, this is what will take the longest with this smaller brush. And I feel like I have too much on my brush, so I'm going to wipe it off. Because we don't want our peppermint to turn this color. So I'm going to go along the outer edge. It's very narrow. I'm not putting much on here. I'm not letting it get carried away. I don't have a ton of water in my brush with this because I don't want the paint to fade away and all my hard work of putting it on here to go away. I do need a drop of water now because it's not wanting to move. The paint's not wanting to flow. Another little drop of water. Wipe a little bit of that off because it felt like I got a lot on my brush there. I definitely need water. This is also a pretty transparent color of paint too, so that is helpful when we're floating on things that we don't want, and we don't want them to turn completely pink. So grab a little bit of water. We're going to do the other edge of the peppermint. We want it to look rounded, so right here it's going to be narrow, so I'm going to be up on the tip of the brush, kind of filling that area in right there, almost lining it. See that? And then we're going to go around this edge. Again, you don't want very much water in your brush with this one, just enough to keep that paint wet enough to move it. We're using fresh paint, and that makes a difference as well. Keep this thin. You don't want to fill in your whole peppermint. That can be very, very easy to do. I hope I'm keeping you on camera for this. Probably not. So I do apologize. I had you zoomed in so you could see that hat. And forget to zoom you out when I'm going around the outer edges. I wish my camera was automatic, that it would see, oh yes, she's going out, so let's wide angle out. But no, they haven't invented that camera yet. Or if I had someone here that ran the camera for me, then maybe I wouldn't get off camera. Okay, so now our peppermint's really starting to look like peppermint. How cute is that? So also while we have this, now this is where you're definitely going to want to be tiny little bit on your brush. We're going to do our peppermints out here. And I'm kind of up on the edge of the brush, so I'm not filling that whole peppermint in. Teeniest, tiniest little bit of paint, if I can even get any. And we're just doing the bottom edges, or, you know, kind of up the left side a little bit. And since I have such a small amount of paint, I mean, I can't even tell you how small of amount of paint I have on my brush. I have to go back more frequently, because that little tiny drop of paint that I get does not go very far. Oh, these peppermints are so cute. Just on that little edge. If it's filling up your little peppermints, then wash your brush out and just start reloading over. Try to get as much of the moisture out as you can, so you're just using kind of straight paint worked into your brush. Keep it up on the edge if you need to, the chisel edge of that brush. And look at those peppermints. Oh my gosh, they're popping now. They are just absolutely so much fun. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So cute. So stinking cute. I love my little peppermint gnome. Okay, we're going to add a little highlight on here. So first off, let's go with our 6 chisel. And I'm going to put a highlight along right side and along the top edge. We're going to have to darken up our shading in a couple places. I'll put it on the right sides of the shoes, along the right edge of the hat. I'm keeping this pretty narrow on this hat right here. And then we'll come back and brighten that. We'll put a little bit on each side of the peppermint, or on the opposite side that we put the floating. Keep this just a small amount of paint. You're just brightening up there just a little bit, not doing a whole lot. Almost lining the peppermint. That one kind of had a weird shape, straighten it out a little bit. This is probably where I should have you zoomed in. And then hopefully I'll remember to zoom you back out. I've got the brush tilted up. I don't want that side of the brush, I don't want it to lay down flat. I have it tilted up. And again, just a small amount of paint. Okay, and we can come back and repeat any of them that we feel like need to be brightened a little bit, but that's not going to be our only highlight on these, so don't feel like you have to. Okay. I really need to darken the shading on the shoes here. So let me get a little bit of that cranberry. Is it cranberry? No, it's deep burgundy. I'll be calling it the wrong color. I'm not going to worry too much about going along the bottom of the shoe because we're going to be putting snow on here. But right underneath here, I definitely want it to be darker. Okay. I'm going to brighten up on the toes of the shoes real quick before we add our highlight on our peppermint banding out there. And I'll go ahead and put a little bit more just here in the center on the side here. Wide angle you out. Okay, we're going to add some bright highlight with our liner brush. I'm going to put some fresh white out to do this. And we want to go into our clean water. Grab some water, bring it down to your white paint, and thin it a little bit with the water to make it inky consistency. We want it to flow off of our brush nicely. We're going to wipe off our ferrule by rolling it on to the paper towel. Make sure we're loaded up. And then I like to try and start in a light area and then just go down the center of our peppermints. A little bit too much paint on my brush here. And we can skip a place and do another spot. Skip a place. Okay, and I think I'll take a little bit of this and put it down. Like that. We still got ribbon to put on our present, so the present is... I feel like I need the tree trunk to be a little bit darker, so I think we are going to have to add some black in here. I really was kind of hoping I wouldn't have to, but I need just a little bit of darkening on that tree trunk. So I'm going to take some of my burnt umber. And if you have soft black, you could just use soft black. I'm going to create a little bit of a soft black here with some burnt umber and black. Because soft black is just a black brown. Ooh, I had a chunk of paint on the end of my brush. I don't want that. So I'm just going to do a little bit of this on the left side and kind of where we put that just burnt umber earlier, where everything kind of connects together. We're going to add a brighter highlight on here. And we'll put a little snow on here later too, so. Okay, so that got the tree trunk a little bit darker. I like that much better. I'm going to put a little bit more burnt umber on the hat brim. And we're going to do our fur next. And then we'll do his beard. Then we'll finish the presents, and I'll see what I'm going to do down here yet. I still am not 100% sure where I'm going with that. Okay, I forgot to put a bright little highlight on our peppermints on the tree. So I'm just going to put a little line on them, like a shine line. Hopefully this will show up. I'm using almost straight paint here. It might have a little bit of water in it from when I thinned it for the outer line out here, which it looks like I might need to brighten in a couple places. Going back over some that didn't look like I got them very bright. And I think out here I might try to brighten up a little bit. It's always kind of hard to go back over. These thinner lines, because you got to be very careful and stay right on that line. And sometimes, oh, not even on camera. Sometimes it can be tricky. I was just a couple of places around the outer edge out here. I'm just going back over where I felt like it faded back in there too much. We want that bright shine mark on there to make that peppermint look like it is shiny. So those bright shine marks are pretty important. Put some on the shoes. His little peppermint shoes. Okay. I think we're going to work on his beard next. Now, there's two ways that you can do the beard. One is to use a rake brush. This is just a small one. This is a 1/4 inch one. And we can rake in his beard this way. Or we can just use a small round and bring it in with a small round. So, but I think I'm going to use the rake brush. So to use the rake brush, you have to wake it up. So put some water in the bristles. You got to fill it up with water. And come over here to your paint and fill your brush with the paint. I'm going to have to put some fresh paint on. I like to push my bristles out, and then when I go to paint I can get some nice rakey lines on here. But you can certainly do it with just a round brush. So for those of you that want to use a round brush, just use a small round. This one that I've been using so far is just a 1 round. And you can bring them in like this and create some different texture this way. different swirliness with the beard. So I'm going to go ahead and finish with the round brush. I've worked with a round brush a lot doing beards, so for me it's just as quick as a rake brush. Okay, so I want a little bit of hairs right here underneath the nose, almost like a mustache, and then the rest of them we're just going to pull out, and whichever way you want the brush to go, you're going to stay up on the tip. Staying up on the tip doing this is the key to getting these nice flowy hairs coming off of this guy. And just keep going back and getting paint, because the paint won't go very far, so I want you to go back and get as you need, because if you keep trying to use the brush and you don't have much paint, that's when you're going to start pushing down really hard and get super fat, thick lines, and you won't be very happy. I just want his beard to come down here kind of to a point. So I'm going to take it down to that point and then go back and fill in any hairs that I need. And we will have to do this beard 2 or 3 times because the white just fades down in there. So we'll do it a couple of times to make it really stand out well. Okay? Alright, so while that is drying, before we can put our second coat on, I'm going to paint my bell hook thing, because I decided to go ahead and just make that negative space down there. I'm going to paint it in with a brown color and see if I like that. I might want to keep it gold like the rest of it. And then the rest of the space I'm going to paint in with black. This is our negative space. So let me make sure I got my ball shaped good here. I'm going to have to shape that bell a little bit. I'm going to let that dry so I can use my pencil to shape that and get it to where it looks a little bit more rounded. And then I'll paint in the area that I don't need. So I'm going to put a quick another coat on his beard and let it dry, and then I'm going to go transfer on my lines for my bows. I'm up on the tip of the brush. The paint is a nice consistency so that it flows off of your brush easily, but it's not quite inky, because inky would make it way too thin, and then we'd have to do like 10 coats. But it is a little bit thinner. And you can decide when you like your beard, when you're done with it. You can go back in with some more gray if you want it to have more gray in it. I can still see some gray peeking through, so I'm okay with that. That's a shade around his nose and stuff. Alright, I'm going to go get my lines on for my bows. Okay, let me wide angle out here. So I got my little ball shaped a little bit better here. I'm painting my negative space in, and then I decided to go ahead and paint that in with moon yellow. So we're going to shade it with some antique gold. I got enough here. So we're just going to shade it right here next to the peppermint, and right here next to the ball. If you get in your black, not a big deal. I'm going to grab a little bit of white and highlight along this edge of it. I think I'll deepen my shading here. Take my antique gold and a little bit of burnt umber, kind of dirty up that gold a little bit. Give it a little bit more depth. Okay, that looks better. Okay, since we are using black now, I'm going to darken these little holes that we created in our bell by putting some black in there. And pulling it down. If you don't cover up the brown completely, that's fine. And that's gonna and then we'll brighten the highlight right here on the topper and the bell, and I think we'll have both of those done. So I'm going to do a back-to-back float highlight. So I'm going to try and get all the moisture out of my brush and just load straight paint. Put some there, flip the brush over, make it touch, then take the water edge, and I'm just going to scooch that out just a little bit. Okay, same thing up here. Wipe some of that off. Kind of brighten these high spots. And since I got over into my shading, I'm going to touch my shading up underneath this and above this. Since I have some paint on my brush, I'm just going to go ahead and darken those outer edges a little bit. Should make our topper and everything look more like gold. So cute. I think right underneath here, where the topper comes over the peppermint, we're going to make that a little bit darker. So I'm going to take my deep burgundy, the tiniest little bit of black that you can imagine, just to deepen that a little bit. And we're going to go underneath here, create a little bit more of a shadow. Okay, when we float inside here, that's going to clean all that up inside there. So I think really our topper and our bell on the bottom are done. So we're going to finish out our presents add some snow in here. We got a shade on his beard yet, underneath his nose and his hat, and finish out his fur. So, a few more steps to do, but we're going to get them all done. So, let me zoom you back in a little bit, not too far, so I don't get you off camera. Let's paint this ribbon in here. And I think I'm going to paint it in, this one's going to have just a string ribbon on it. And I'll probably put a gold ribbon on that one, so I might make that one blue. So let's grab our Salem blue. Let's get some fresh out, because I'm tired of digging holes in my paint. I don't know why we do that. It's like, oh, I can get a little bit more out of that. The paint is affordable. We don't have to be digging holes in it. So I'm going to fill this guy in with some blue. And if I don't go over my lines, I can erase them. If I get paint on them, they're in there. So I always put the first coat on and then erase. And then if I can't erase the line, if I've gotten paint on it, then I know I have to cover it with some more paint. And we're going right over that dot that we made, so it's going to make a little raised spot on that part of the ribbon. Okay, that's super cute. Alright, let's put a red bow on this one. And country red. It's got ribbon going around it, so I'll come down it. You can make this ribbon peppermint striped if you wanted to. Okay. So while that's drying, let's do a little float on the beard. So I'm going to take some black and some white and make a dark gray. A little bit darker than gray sky, so if you just want to pull your gray sky out and add a tiny little bit of black to it, you can. And we're going to go underneath. And that was a lot, so I'm going to take wash my brush out, and then just take the brush with water in it and take some of that down. We don't need tons of that in there. Wipe too much of it off right here. And again, if you want more gray in it, you can take some gray and pull some gray hair into it if you want to. Add a little bit more into it. That's just that dark gray value that I made. I'm just pulling a few of those in there. And you can be creative with his beard. Don't feel like you're set a certain way, that you have to do it a certain way. Okay, that is going to finish up his beard. Let's do the fur, and for that I want to get a small little scruffy brush that I can stipple with. So just find one that would be a good little stipple brush that won't leave tons of paint. I'd have to go with smaller here. So I have some this is a Royal Majestic brush. I think I got it at Hobby Lobby. A lot of fabric brushes have more stiffer bristles. This is a fabric brush, and it's a little bit more stiff to stipple with. I'll get my words out here in a minute. So I think I'll use this fabric brush. And we're just going to stipple in some color through here. And we want to start with that sable brown. This was the color that we based in the tree trunk. We mixed it with another color. We mix it with that skin color, but we're going to start with this color, and I'm just going to tap a little, get a little bit on my brush and pull over here away from the paint and work it into the brush. I like to work it straight up and down. That's why you couldn't see me a while ago, but I'll turn it so that you can see it. And when I need paint, I'm just going to go right here to this paint that I just pulled out, and we're going to stipple some of this. Need a little bit more paint. On here, it's not showing up too well on that burnt umber. Probably should have done this one down here before we've done his beard, so I'm going to go over his beard and then just do those lines back in there. Okay, I'm just going to wipe my brush, get the excess of paint out of it, and go into that flesh color. Pick up some of that. I kind of want to blend it a little bit with that brown, and we'll put some of this in there. I really want it to be more fluffy, so I might have to get a bigger brush. This one might not be letting me. So I'll start with this color, put it in my brush, and then go into this color and work it in together so I have that blended color. And I'm doing a straight up and down pouncing here. I definitely want to bring it, get a little bit of burnt umber, bring it out past the line that I painted, give it a little more fluffiness up there on the top. Up a little bit more of that flesh color. I'm starting to get a little muddy here, so I'm going to have to get out of that. Go down here to this one. Wipe my brush off. I want to get this flesh color. Warm beige is the color. White in there with it. A little bit more white. Probably weren't even on camera for the bottom one at all. I haven't videotaped for a while, so I keep forgetting to look up. You guys are probably all just yelling at me. Get on camera, woman! I'm going to put some just bright white in the center. Although it's not going to matter down here because we're going to put his beard on. So I think that's pretty good for his fur. Now it was based in with burnt umber, and you can go back in and tap some burnt umber in it, which I think I might do with this smaller one here. I've got the other one wet now. You want to use these brushes dry. And tap a little bit on the outer edges of that burnt umber. Okay, that's good enough. We're going to shade on it. I'm going to have to reshade back underneath the beard with that gray mix. Get some more white out. Alright, so our white and our black. We'll make that medium to dark gray value, and we're going to go back underneath the hat. We kind of pounced over our little shadow there. I'm going to go ahead and put some more white strokes down for the tip of his beard. Make sure your brown on your fur stuff is dry. What a cute little guy. I'm just stroking a few more white ones back in here. I want his beard to be a little bit brighter. Up on the tippy toe. Okay, I like that beard. That is cute as can be. Okay, now to finish up the hat, the fur on the hat, we're just going to shade on the outer edges. We're going to make that soft black mix, which is burnt umber and a tiny little bit of black. Just making a darker brown is what you're making here. Touching it back with my finger so I can softening it. It was just a little bit too hard of a line. I don't have any water left on my palette, so let me grab some water. I'm going to go off camera and put the second coats on my bows there. And I'm going to put a little bit of this along the bottom edge. Just a scooch of it. And then I still want a little bit of a brighter highlight right here. So I'm just going to take the corner of my brush and tap some in there. Make it a little bit brighter. Touch it back with my finger so it's not standing on the top, but it kind of blends down in there a little bit. Okay, I got some brown out here, so hopefully that hasn't cured. I just dampened it. Take my eraser and erase that away. What a cutie! What a cutie! Alright, I'm darkening the red. No, that's the wrong red. This red. This red just a little bit with some black. It still needs to be a little bit darker right underneath here. And we'll put I'm just going to tap a little bit of this up here. A little bit of a shadow from the fur. I don't really like that I put in up here. So I'm very easily, gently, just erase that away, because if I push too hard, I erase all the layers that I put on there. I didn't like that layer. It did not appeal to me at all. I need brighter on this edge out here, so I'm just going to take some white. And put it on there. I'll do the same for the blue one. That edge to be brighter. We may not see much of his shoe once we put some snow in here. And before you even paint him in, you could have put some clouds back in here if you wanted. Make it even a little more wintry weather looking. All right, I'm going to go off camera, get my second coats on here. We're going to finish our bows, and then we are going to do our snow, and we'll be done. Okay, I'm going to give you a tip about red. I know every teacher or instructor or designer has their own opinions about the color red and what makes it, what color is best to use underneath it. So you kind of just have to play around and use your own judgment. I used to do murals, paint murals on walls, and red is the hardest color to get it to be the true color of the red that you are using. The one thing that I found that brings that red to the color that I really want, and the color I really want is the color that's in the can or the jar or whatever, the bottle, is gray. So I always undercoat my red with gray sky. Now I didn't do that here, and I can see through this. So what I'm doing now is mixing a little bit of the gray sky in with my red so I can make that red a little bit more opaque. And I'm going to paint my red on here, and then I'm going to come back with just straight country red on top here. And that will make my red be more opaque, and it won't, things won't shine through. You know, I could see all that blue coming through there, and I didn't like that. Alright, I'm going to erase my lines up here on my blue ribbon. So you see I didn't go over that line right there, so it came right off. I'm going to add just a touch of blue in there to shape that. And then we're going to be finishing this one in a minute. This particular bow right here is just going to get a string ribbon. So it's going to be with white, so I'm going to take clean water and thin my white down. And you all know, I hope, why we use clean water for our light colors, our whites and our light yellows and things like that. Because your dirty water will change the color of your white. And then it will no longer be white, it will be some other color. So you can draw your lines in here. I'm just going to make some loops. And I'm going to do it a couple of times, maybe even 3. A little fat area in the middle. This loop, this first one I made, does not show up very much, so let's just brighten it up. Just a loopy bow, and then we're going to give it some strings coming off. Okay, just a stringy little loopy bow. And I'm going to go over these one more time because white is notorious for fading down in and disappearing. And this is just a string bow, so it's not got to be super fancy or perfect or anything. None of this is perfect, so. Alright, let me get a quick coat of red on here. This is with our country red. Now, any of you that have painted with me know that I cannot paint a Christmas anything without putting some bling on it. So we will be putting bling on this, just so you know. You do not have to put it on. It is completely optional. But I just can't, I can't do it. It's just, it's like my brain doesn't want to work that way. It's like, no, you have to put some bling on it. So I've already got my Christmas decorations up. I had to get them up early because we have company coming right after Thanksgiving for a family Christmas. And everything that I put out seemed like had glitter on it, so of course our living room has glitter everywhere. And that does not make my husband very happy to see that glitter everywhere. So, but I don't mind seeing it. He goes, we're going to have glitter in the house until February. I'm like, oh, if we're lucky, woohoo! Alrighty, let's work on this bow. I'm going to take my Royal Navy. Let's still alive under there. And we're going to shade inside this bow, this color. Kind of up on the chisel edge of it, going down in there. I need a little drop of water on my brush here. We're going to go around this knot. Still up on the little chisel-y edge there. I'm going to go right here in the middle and just do like a little wiggle, wiggle, wiggle kind of thing. Let me grab a little bit more paint. And we'll just do a little wiggle, pull out some little detail lines. Kind of in that bow. Go along this outer edge. This is a pretty quick little bow. Shouldn't take you too long. I'm going to go along the left edge and along the bottom. Let me bring that over just a little bit. And you know, we got all those polka dot bumps underneath here, so just work out this, smooth it out as best you can. Alright, and we're going to highlight with some white. We probably won't do much more than that on here. So we'll go along this edge with some white. You will probably have to repeat the white because, you know, like I said, it likes to fade down in there. Oh, I just strung it all clear across my red bow here. Clean it off as best I can. That one wasn't dry and I put my hand right through it. I'm going to have to repaint that that bowstring right there. Okay, then we're going to go along this edge. This inside edge a little bit. This outside edge a little bit. Top of the knot. Oh, not on camera for any of that. Oh my gosh. I am so fired. I am so stinking fired. Here we go. Along the top edge. This is what I did to the other one. Then we'll go along this edge. Along the inside edge. The other one, the part you didn't get to see. And then along the top of the knot. I know I'm upside down. So I probably will repeat all of that so I can darken the shading and get that highlight to pop a little bit. Alright, so for the red one, we got a knot right here. And this is a more flat bow. It does have a little bit of... Actually, I think I'm just going to make it a flat bow. Not where we can see the loops at all. So, we're going to go with our red, which is our deep burgundy. And we're going to go along the bottom, next to the bow. And we have to determine which piece of ribbon is on top. Okay, so I want the one coming down to be on top, so I'm going to shade on the ones that are going across. We'll put some at the bottom, underneath the knot. Actually, the bottom of the knot gets some. And we want to put a little bit more paint on this outer edge. I think I just wiped off what I put on there. This is our shading, and I just want to very gently, up on the very chiselly edge. You probably haven't been on camera for this whole thing. Go along the outer edges of the ribbon that's going around the box. Shade next to the box as well. I'm almost lining it with the edge of this. Okay, and that color is a little bit hard to see for our first time, so Don't worry about it. We're going to go back up to the blue. I want to darken that. Inside here. Put you on camera. I am so fired. Okay, I really wanted to have you zoomed in for that, but I think that was just causing more issues than anything else, because I'm not sure how much of that bow you actually saw. Alright, back to the highlight. Here we go. Top, bottom, top, just right along that edge on the knot. Now normally I would put a back-to-back float on these bows to give them a really big shine, but I'm not so sure that would work out well on here. I might try it. I'm gonna put a little tiny bit of a streak of highlight in here. I can do it fine on that side. Make some little thin lines on that side, but on this side it's like impossible. I don't know what the deal is. I have to get my detail liner out. So don't struggle with a brush like I am. Get a detail liner out. Finish it up. Alright, I think I will try a back-to-back float on that one because it's a bigger bow. So I got my white, and I'm going to go down the center here, and then flip my brush over and go right next to where I just put that. And that is going to make the ribbon look more like a satin ribbon. Give it a shine. I generally do all my bows this way with a back-to-back float. And I definitely need more. That gives it a little bit more of a satiny look. Okay, I'm calling that one done. Okay, just your Royal Navy for shading. I did it twice, and then your white for highlighting. And that one's done. Not doing any more to it. Well, I think I will come back and shade around. The bow here, where it creates a little bit of a shadow. Okay. Now for the red one, we put that deep burgundy on there, but I think I'm going to mix a little bit of black with it. Wipe that off of my brush. Too much black, and grab some more deep burgundy. And blend it together. Just a nice, richer color is all we're making here. And we'll go on all the places where we went. Black in there. I really want to define where this knot is. Wrong side of my brush. I'm like, I'm not leaving any paint. What's going on? There we go. Finally. Finally. A little bit more black was what it needed. go on each side here. More. I'm just going to kind of pull some of that on my chisel edge. I have to have a scooch more black. There we go. Pull some of that down, pull some of that up, pull some of that across. Well, that edge we might highlight out there, so we don't really need dark out there. Alright, let's highlight with some white on this one. And I might do that back-to-back float on this one as well. I'm just going to put some down the center, a little bit along this edge, and pull it in. And then I'll do my back-to-back here. Take it down the center, flip my brush over right next to it. Try not to fill up your whole bowl like I just did. Stay out of my little dark area. And then that's going to give us a little bit of a shine. This white just fades down in there so much, so you'll have to come back and do it a couple of times. I know up close it looks like a terrible mess. Fix the tail of this one. This whole ribbon just kind of got smashed. It's a smashed ribbon. Okay, so let me wide angle out, because wide angling out always makes things look so much better. Okay, I'm going to shade around this red bow real quick. Give it some shadow. This is with that Royal Navy. I'm going to go ahead and go beside this one, give it a little bit more darker. Go underneath the ribbon. And then I might take some of my antique gold. This is where you can kind of look around your piece and decide what needs to be darkened. I'm putting some of this gold around this red ribbon, create a little bit of a shadow effect. I'll put some more behind this present. Okay, that looks pretty good. Oh, so cute. So cute. So now we need to shade inside our oval to kind of push the bring the peppermint forward and push the painting itself back. And then we're going to add some snow. Oh, actually, let's add our snow first, and then we'll do our shading around there. Alright, let me put some fresh white out. We're going to make our snow here. Now, I'm going to first apply it with a brush, and then I'm going to come back and stipple a little bit on top of it. And I just want a slightly damp brush here. Side load it with some white, and then you just kind of figure out where your snow piles, where you want your snow piles to live. I want my snow piles to live here, And so I'm just giving a little wiggle, a little push and a wiggle and a pull out. And we're going to put some snow here. I'm just kind of tapping it in. Bring some up the tree a little bit. And a little tap, a little tap, tap, tap. And, oh, got into some brown. We don't want that. We do not want brown snow. That would not be good. Alright, make sure I got that brown out of my brush here. Go back into some white. And then tap and wiggle and pull and wiggle and tap and fluff it and wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And just create your snow however you want it to go. Sound like a Dr. Seuss book. I may not do any stippling. I'm kind of liking the way that this looks. Let me zoom you in just a little bit. It's a little bit harder for you to see, so I'm just seriously just tapping with the corner of that brush. And then just kind of letting the snow do what it wants to do. How fun is that? I might put a little bit more snow back in here. Get it off my fur there. Snow, snow, snow. Okay, let's put a little bit in the tree here. Just tap some on. I'm just using the corner of this brush, tap a little pile of snow and then pull it out. A little pile of snow and pull it out. A little pile of snow and pull it out. Put a little pile of snow here and tap it out. Put some in here and in here. A little bit more. Just have some fun with your snow. We're going to bling this snow up. Bling the snow up, bling the peppermint up, or you can not bling at all. Some people don't like to bling. I'm a blinger. Don't like to wear it, but I sure do like to paint it. Okay, I think that looks pretty cute. Alright, we'll finish off the oval with that Royal Navy on the inside. I'm going to work this into my brush so it's nice and sheer. I think I'm actually going to mix some of that. Actually, let's just do the Salem blue. I'm just going to use the Salem blue, and then if I need to darken it, I will use. Working it into my brush for a float. Yeah, Salem blue was a good call. I'm going to go around the inside. I'm going to take it down to the snow. I'm going to go over the snow, but I want to make sure it's nice and dry first. So I'm just going to do sections along the outside border of the Salem blue. up on the kind of edge of your brush there so you don't get it all over the hat. Clean up the edge of your peppermint there. Might take a couple of coats to clean up the edge. I kind of got really crazy with my red there. Remember, you have to have some water in your brush in order to get a proper soft float. If you don't have it in there, it's not going to happen. Okay, my snow is probably dry. Let me feel it. Yep, feels pretty dry. So grab some Salem. And we're going to go along the bottom down here. Kind of up on the edge. I'm just barely putting any in here. My brush is just lightly skimming across that snow. I don't want to lose all my snow. And if I make it a wide float, I'm going to lose it all. And then all that beautiful snow we put in there is going to be gone. All right, I need to straighten up this edge right here. It's a little wobbly lolly. And that's looking pretty good. Looks a little still not quite shaped right here. So let me get in here and shape this. Make it more oval. That did a little bit better. It narrowed it down a little bit right there, but its shape is a little bit better, so I'm happy with that. Okay, that looks pretty good. So cute! Who wouldn't want a peppermint gnome? My gosh, he is so cute. Okay, last thing to do. Now, I like to put my glamour dust on, and you can put it on before or after you varnish. It really makes no difference. I generally put it on before just because I like to do it on camera, show you how to do it, and then varnish later. It really doesn't take down the sparkle in the glamour dust, but if you think it does, you can apply this right on top of your varnish. So let me shake it up a little bit. And we are going to bling this baby up. Let me find a spot where I won't get into my other paints. So I'm going to go up here and hopefully it won't go into everything else. Alright, I already know I want my peppermint to have bling on it. So all of my peppermint is going to get some bling, bling, bling. I have to go to a round brush here. And you could put some metallic on your topper and your bell. I originally was going to do that, but then changed my mind, decided no, I don't want to do that. And I was going to make my bells silver, and so you could make your bells silver, but I wanted to bring some other color besides red, white, and blue in here. So that was my decision to make my bells gold, my bell and my topper gold. So we're just putting this right on the peppermint. It's going around. But that's not the only place we're putting it. No siree. Not on mine anyway. I wish you could see the bling as well as I can see it. Any of you that have painted with glamour dust, you know that bling. You know that it is gorgeous. Alright, I'll put some on this present. Try and stay off of the ribbons. May not be the easiest thing to do. Put some on his shoes. And kind of hold your present up to the light, and then you can see the areas where you still need to put some glamour dust on there. I'm going to go to a round brush because we're going to put it on our peppermints, of course. OMG. So cute. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Sparkly peppermint. Oh my gosh, so cute. So cute. So now I'm just going to take this round brush and I just want to tap a little bit of bling in the snow. I don't want the snow to be a focal point, but I do want it to have a little bit of sparkle because snow needs to have some sparkle. So I'll probably only do it on here once. Just a little bit of sparkle in my snow. Because I want the main sparkle to be on my peppermints. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So I will finish this out with another coat, at least one more coat. If not two, because I like my sparkle. But I think that this is going to finish up this project. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is so cute. I cannot believe how adorable this turned out. My peppermint gnome. Alrighty, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for painting with me. I hope that you enjoyed this one, and we'll paint this little gnome on other things. He's just a cutie. What a cute ornament to give as a gift this year. Oh my gosh, because gnomes are so huge this year. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for painting with me, you guys. I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.